Have you had a hard time getting your front wheel up off the ground or wanted to move it from one place to another? What if I told you that the power to lift and move your front wheel wasn't coming from your arms, but somewhere totally different? Stick around. We're gonna unlock this technique by coming at it from a completely new approach. My name is Aaron. Welcome to Super Rider. This is where we break down complex bike skills into easy to learn techniques so you can quickly put them to use on your rides. Lifting your front wheel off the ground plays a huge part in what we call wheel placement. In a previous video, we learned how to lift and move our back wheel, and today we're gonna learn how to do it with our front wheel. Your overall bike control is going to get a huge boost once you have command of moving both wheels, and that makes you a more confident rider. The skills and drills that we work on today are gonna play a huge role in your development as a rider and get you progressing quickly. Let's have a quick look at the bike before we begin. I usually recommend 3 different things when it comes to learning any new skill. Drop your seat, lock out your suspension if you can, and if you have them, switch to flat pedals. None of these things are required, but it will help you learn the skill faster. Once you get the basics locked in, then you can open up your suspension, put your clipless pedals on, whatever you need to do. But it's best to simplify as much as possible when you're learning any new skill. Let's dive into the foundation of lifting and moving our front wheel. It has absolutely nothing to do with your arm strength or the weight of your bike. It has everything to do with where your body is positioned on the bike. Today we're going to learn about unweighting, which is how we pull our body weight away from the part of the bike that we want to move. If you've ever had trouble lifting your front wheel off the ground, it's likely because you didn't unweight the front wheel. And what that means is that your body weight was too far forward on the bike and it was holding the front wheel on the ground. So it probably felt like you were fighting against the bike to get it to do what you wanted. The power to unweight your front wheel is not in your arms, it's in your hips. That's where your center of gravity is, and using that to your advantage is the key to this movement. We know our center of gravity is in our hips, but where is it on the bike? This area down here is called the bottom bracket. This is where the pedals and cranks connect to the bike, and that's the area that we're gonna focus on today. To simplify this point, if your body weight is in front of the bottom bracket, that front wheel is not coming up. The further your body weight gets behind the bottom bracket, the easier it is to bring that front wheel off the ground. The best way to test this out is to get on the bike and try it for yourself. Roll along slowly with your pedals level so you have a nice stable platform to stand on. Then you're gonna quickly move your hips from the handlebar to behind the seat. You should feel that front wheel get quite a bit lighter as you get behind the seat and maybe even come off the ground. One major concern that riders have when it comes to lifting their front wheel off the ground is that they're gonna lift it too high and the back wheel is gonna shoot out and they're gonna fall down. But what we want to do here is start really small. We only need that front wheel to come off the ground maybe an inch or so before we can move on. Practicing this one element likely gave you a good feeling for how important your hips are to this skill. Unweighting the bike is one of the most important things that you can do as you progress as a rider, and it's vital to being able to lift your front wheel off the ground. Now that we understand how important unweighting is for this technique, we can sprinkle in one last element, and that's what we do with our arms. I like to do a bit of a rowing motion with my arms, and this is more about guiding the front wheel up than it is actually doing the work to lift it off the ground. Remember, our hips and our center of gravity are doing that. So as I'm preparing for that unweighting motion, when my hips go toward the handlebars, I bend my elbows in to bring everything close to the front of the bike. Then when my hips shoot to the back of the bike, I complete that rowing motion, and that helps guide the front wheel up off the ground. If your front wheel still didn't budge after all of this, grab your phone and film yourself doing the technique. Chances are you're still too far forward on the bike. The best advice I can give you for learning any technique is to over-exaggerate your movements. Over time, you'll become a lot more efficient with your movement on the bike and you won't have to move around as much. But when you're learning any new technique, it's always best to go a bit further than you think you need to go, because that's probably just about right. Now that your front wheel is coming off the ground, let's take it up a notch. We're gonna learn how to rotate the bike by lifting the front wheel and moving it to the left and right. The same principles we've been working on apply to this technique too. You're gonna take your body weight to the back of the bike and you're gonna use your arms to do that rowing motion to guide the front wheel off the ground. The secret to moving your front wheel is all in your knees. So if you want to move your front wheel to the left, you're going to open your left knee away from the bike. If you want to move your front wheel to the right, you're going to open your right knee to the bike. Now you can also use your shoulders to lean in that direction, but your knees are directly connected to your hips, which are the center of gravity, which is what's controlling most of the bike, and that's what we want to focus on. To get more rotation out of this movement, the best advice I can give you is to lift your front wheel a little bit higher so it has more time to fall into place. Practice makes progress on this whole thing, so just start small with it. Move your front wheel a little bit at a time and then work your way up. Let's talk about the best way to practice this skill. Eventually, you'll want to have command of this whether you're rolling or standstill. But the best way to start is to roll along slowly with your feet level on the bike and use your back brake to slow yourself to a stop. As soon as the bike stops, lift and move that front wheel, and when the front wheel hits the ground again, let go of that back brake and continue riding. Practicing this way is the closest to how you'll actually use it in real life. Get comfortable here, and then we can move on. My favorite drill for practicing this skill is called pendulum. It's really similar to how we learned how to move our back wheel around. What you do is grab your back brake to lock it in place, and then you lift and move your front wheel to the left and then to the right. By doing this, not only do we learn how to move our front wheel back and forth, but it also teaches us how to balance using just our front wheel. You could also take this drill to another level by trying to do a complete circle all the way to the right and then do a complete circle all the way back around to the left. Not only does it get you confident moving left and right with that front wheel, but you can also work on how far you're able to move with the wheel each time. Now that we can lift and move our front wheel, a whole new level of progression awaits. Our balance increases, our bike control grows, and the next thing we'll likely work on is riding up and onto obstacles. If this video was helpful for you, consider sharing it with another person you ride with. If you want to progress your technique even further, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can see the next technique we're going to work on. And if you don't want to wait until the next video, go check out this playlist right here. These are all the techniques that we've already worked on. In any case, have fun out there, and don't forget, practice makes progress.